Hello and welcome. My name's Dawn Campbell at the International Authority for Professional Coaching and Mentoring. And today I'm with Katrin Prentice, who is our June featured coach of the month. And in fact, she's the only Bulgarian accredited master coach. Is that right?
I'm the first one.
First one, yes. Okay. So welcome, and we'll dive straight in because we're keen to know, how did you make the transition from corporate employee to where you are now, an entrepreneur with a thriving coaching practice, and in fact, I know you're a training provider as well.
Yes. Well, it's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have never been a corporate employee.
Okay.
Yes, I have always been an entrepreneur of some sorts.
Okay.
I don't ever remember receiving a salary. So, but I also haven't always done business. The majority of my professional experience comes from being involved in non-governmental and non-profit organizations.
Okay.
So that's where I gained my first coach training, as well as started implementing the principles of coaching with various people.
So what was your first big break as a solo entrepreneur coach?
What would you consider a first break? Like the biggest client I've had?
Yeah. Whatever was a breakthrough for you.
I have had a number of breakthroughs for me. It has been, it was a very big switch from NGO work into a business world. And also launching a business in a country which hadn't had coaching as something that people were aware of, not even the businesses. Very, very minute minority of people were aware of the benefits of coaching. So in 2010, when we shot up on the horizon and launched the first coach training programs, a lot of people predicted failure because it was unheard of in this part of the world, and it was the pricing of it was different from what most people were commonly accustomed to. However, it was an exciting journey. The first first couple of years was a very exciting journey. We had to do a lot of informational events where we can introduce people to the benefits of coaching and why coaching works, what it's all about, and how it changes people's lives, as well as transform businesses. And slowly, well, not that too slowly, actually it was quite fast in our case, but people gained understanding. And I think for me, I consider that a big break because it had to do with awakening a lot of people to the benefits of coaching. And customers came, coaching clients came along because they were intrigued and because they had tried other things that hadn't worked in improving their business. So when coaching was introduced to them, it was, and they also experienced the benefit of it. That was, I consider it a major victory or achievement or a breakthrough.
I suppose that's one of the things that you've got by way of an advantage is the curiosity element, that coaching isn't so very well known. It doesn't have a long history in your country.
No, at least at the time when we started. Now this is 8 years later. So yes, there is an 8-year history now. So it's a little different at the moment. There's a lot more people that are aware and are interested, which is wonderful because coaching is a good business, but what inspires me the most is the element that coaching changes people from within. It brings internal transformation. The same goes for business. It changes the business from within, from the core values that really matter and are long-lasting. Economy can change, situations can change, but the inner core of the values, what drives people and businesses, if that is strengthened, then people can survive and thrive through no matter what, including the businesses too. They can not just survive, they can thrive no matter what situations are around. That is really key for me.
So how did you know that this was what you were meant to do or your vocation? How did you get on the path of coaching yourself, Katrin?
Well, I started quite early in my life, adult life, okay. I am a child of a generation that lived through the changes that happened in Eastern Europe in the early 90s, late 80s, 89, 90, 91, when the big changes happened, when one social system actually collapsed and a new one was born. People were curious how things were going to go. So that's when, excuse me?
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
So it was quite a shocking experience. It's almost like difficult to explain to somebody who's never lived through it. But it's a shocking experience because you have been growing up in an environment where you have held certain imposed values, if I can say so, for many years, and it was imposed that was the only way. And all of a sudden, all of that system crumbled. So it raised a lot of questions in me. And I know a lot of other people from my generation at the time, which we were still young people. But that's when I started searching for something a little more than the traditional status quo and what's expected. And that's when I decided that I'm going to give a break from following the status quo. And I joined a volunteer initiative, which was helping the victims from the war in former Yugoslavia. And I started learning about counseling. I mean, that was like early 90s. So coaching, even internationally, wasn't a strong industry or anything. It was, I mean, okay, if I compare to Novo Manhattan, where I work with right now, it's one of the first ever coach training companies, and it only got launched in 93. So I'm talking about 91, 92. We started learning about counseling, helping people, trauma therapy and all that. However, as the years went on, we realized that as counselors at the time, we could offer only so much, because when you consult somebody, all the answers have to come from the counselor, right? Either from the consultant or the counselor. So, but I realized I have limits. It's impossible for me to have absolutely all the answers. So what do we do? People still need answers and you don't have them. So what's the answer then? And that's when we first came across the coaching principles. We did a research team that I was working with. It wasn't too early, but around the early 2000s, I actually went through the first coaching, very simplified coaching course. And I was amazed at what a tool, what an effective instrument it was. Compared to what I was doing before, all of a sudden the answer didn't have to come from me. I simply needed to facilitate the other person to come up with the answers. And this way, actually the knowledge base for answers expanded almost exponentially, because every person that is involved in this becomes a source of that knowledge. That was super exciting. So we started implementing. That's when I consciously started implementing coaching principles and using coaching both in my leadership management as well as individual one-on-one working with people. And we started training our teams and so forth. And then in 2010, I actually met Novo Manhattan Coaching. And the values of helping others that I held very dear to my heart somehow I saw them and I recognized them in that company as well. So it helped me to blend almost like the my sense of mission of helping others and changing lives with a sensible business model. It was a perfect match, really. And so that's when I trained now officially, became a qualified coach. I've studied a number of coach training diploma courses since then, and launched a business as a coach. But the core of it didn't change. The core is still, let's help make the world a better place and change people from within, not just a cosmetic change of circumstances.
I think that's all very interesting. One of the key things that you said for me is that, you know, no one person or no one model has all the answers. And it's about, as coaches, being great facilitators to empower the client to come up with their own plans. So what would be the one piece of advice that you've had, perhaps that you wish you had known back then, that you know now, that would have made all the difference, that you could share with our listeners today?
Well, there's a number. I have had some very good mentors in my life. So I have had a number of wonderful people that have helped me along the path. So one thing for sure is that, as a good advice to, let's say, upcoming coaches, would be find the right mentor. Also find the right coach. Actually, that could have helped a lot in my earlier years. As I was learning how to be a better coach and better professional. Later on, I realized that, and I do work with a mentor and I do work with a coach. But in the early days, I missed it somehow. So that would be a definite advice I would give.
I would agree with that.
Upcoming coaches.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think also, whether it's a mentor or a coach or a supervisor, you know, having some support network to keep you focused and on the right track is quite important. But I think when you're starting out, people miss it, Katrin, because they quite often don't have the funds to invest in themselves. They paid for their training, they've got their website to get, they've got their accreditation to get, their insurance, etc. And so their own needs for a coach, a mentor, or a supervisor sometimes get pushed to the bottom. But when we're a little bit wiser, nearly everybody says, I wish I'd had a coach or some sort of support earlier.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing that I have realized over the years is that when you follow that sense of mission, that how should I say? Okay, this might sound a little abstract to some people who might listen to this interview, but many people go through life searching for what they're meant to do. But okay, coaches can help with that. There's also other programs, self-development programs that can also help with it. But when people focus on what drives them inside and follow that path, then some sort of little magic sort of happens that, yes, I'm aware of not having the financial means and not having or wondering how it's going to happen. But as you follow your calling and you play the role that you're shaped to play, doors open. And doors open to provide the resources that you thought were unreachable. And that has been the story of my life. Even when I started training, like I said, I'm coming from a background that was doing volunteer work for a long period of time. So, and I never had a salary. So many people who would be probably listening to this interview are in much better position than I have ever been. Maybe people right now are actually having good salaries or entrepreneurial experience that gives them some income that was higher than what I used to have when I first started. So, but I had that sense of, well, this is it. I have to do this. This is how I'm supposed to impact the world. You know, that was my path. And for example, for me, I never had paid coaching clients before until I decided I'm going to open a business. So I actually paid for my training and for my mentoring through finding clients, which never existed before that. Only after I took the step, only after I made the decision and made the first step, and only then, the sea opened and I had to walk through it, if I say so.
That's really interesting, because I wonder, although you were coming from a very different financial perspective from most of the people that I come across, they also quite consistently find it difficult, being a salaried person, to make that transition and asking for a fee, whereas you didn't have that inhibition. So maybe you were lucky.
Well, I have worked with a lot of people who have been employees. Regardless of the size of the salary, there is a mental block sometimes that needs to be overcome. I understand that. But it exists no matter where you are. And maybe in this kind of situations, actually working with a mentor or a coach helps even more. to learn to trust that whatever provided, whatever path led them to have all their needs supplied through a salary, and continue taking care of their needs even without it, as long as they follow what they're meant to do. Anyway, that's how I look at, this is my worldview.
Yeah, no, very good. So what are the trends that you're seeing then, Katrin, in your business and in your country with regards to how coaching is perceived and developing?
Sorry, do you mean like trends as far as developing the industry, or people's mind?
Or whether, because typically coaching started out in sport, and then in America it was celebrities and politicians, and now in the UK it's commonplace for everybody to have a coach. But we know in some areas that the executive coaching is really taking off big time. I just wondered if there are any trends that you're seeing either with your clients or in your culture.
Well, in this part of the world, I'm actually based in Bulgaria, but I'm responsible for the Balkan region. So I travel quite a bit. I hold different seminars. I have students and clients in different countries. So at the moment, the aspect of coaching that is most alive is executive coaching. Maybe because a lot of the companies that have branches, the international companies, they have all that awareness, and some have internal coaching culture, or some are in the process of building that. So for that, that's kind of a niche that is open at the moment here, and opening even more. However, outside of the corporate and the executive coaching, coaching per se is still sort of a boutique experience.
Okay.
And people are still learning to trust that it actually can work. But I'm encouraged to see how many people are showing interest. I mean, for example, in Bulgaria, we run a coaching support group for the last 5 to 6 years now. It runs every month, and every month we have new people coming. We have about 30 to 40 people every single month. So you would think, okay, well, the first 2 months of the 7 years, okay, people are curious. Maybe after 3 years, people are still curious. But this is 7 years later, and people are still curious. So I believe coaching it is becoming more and more heard of, popular, and people want to know about it and experience it. So I believe at the moment the interest towards coaching is only growing. So if somebody launches a coaching business at the moment, they're in a very good position, at least in this part of the world, because from here on, it'll only continue building. Like the wave is not that huge. It's building up, but it definitely hasn't reached the peak, and it's definitely not crashing. It's only just building. So it's a very good position, very good starting place for somebody who has a vision for developing as a career or business path, whether it's coaching or mentoring. Both are very needed at the moment, and people are more and more showing curiosity towards it. So
I mean, that's very reassuring and inspirational for students who aspire to achieve what you as pioneers, you paved the way for them.
Yes.
We say in the UK, I mean, with 130,000 coaches, you think the market is saturated, but there is plenty of business for everybody, depending on the niche market that you're in. So, excuse me, I'm sorry, somebody just ringing at the door. So can I just put it on pause? Just a second.
Course.
Thank you. Press.
Okay.
Okay, so interestingly, accreditation all over the world is becoming increasingly important. When we talk about the numbers, as I say, there's 130,000 coaches in the UK. Creating that all-important differentiator so that you can stand out in a sea of sameness. How important has your AMC been to you, Katrin?
For me, it's valuable, definitely. Well, me personally, I take it as it kind of sets me apart a little bit.
The idea,
which is good. I enjoy that. But it doesn't. You don't have to be an AMC. You don't have to be a master coach to stand out. You can be a practitioner coach. You can be a senior coach. But being an accredited coach by an organization like the International Authority of Professional Coaching and Mentoring, or any of the other worldwide accreditation bodies, does sort of sift a little bit between the skillful coaches and the qualified professionals and the wannabes. No disrespect towards anybody, however, with the increased interest towards coaching and mentoring, and it becoming more of a buzzword, it's the cool thing, the new thing. Well, there are a lot of there's a lot of interest in self-training for yourself to become a coach, just to be in the cool wave of the coaching industry, right?
Yeah.
But so there is not often. I'm not saying that it's a big trend, but it does exist, where people from different other professions, because of a long years of professional experience in another helping profession, feel comfortable switching the title from, let's say, either consultant or therapist or psychologist or trainer or consultant, whatever they have been, and now they're a business coach and coach, this type of coach, that type of coach, and all of that. But just because somebody puts a title of a coach doesn't necessarily mean that that is the type of service that they're giving. So having an external body that verifies that, yes, the skills of this individual, this professional, are genuinely coaching skills, and yes, he can deliver value as a coach, is a very useful service. And I believe clients will only benefit if they work closely with this kind of with IAPC&M and other accreditation bodies, as they choose the person who will be the provider of the coaching service. It's an extra guarantee, it's extra safeguard for the quality they will be paying for.
Yeah, I mean, certainly as an organization, we're seeing a lot more inquiries, even just this year, than we did last year, whether it's people who are wanting to join the industry and checking out the training providers. Are these training providers really accredited? What does it mean? What do they have to go through? But also hiring a coach or a mentor. It's the fact that they've had their experience, their training, their qualifications all authenticated, verified, etc., and that they've gone through a certain process that means they are at the top of their industry standards. And in fact, we had a really interesting article earlier in the month, I think it was, with one of the national newspapers, Sunday Telegraph, I think, about somebody who had done exactly what you just described. They were a counsellor and they thought, I'm great at helping people, and they tagged on personal development coach, and the damage this has done, because she got a contract in a school and started working with some of the students, and so I mean, this has gone to litigation now, so you can cause a great deal of damage, because as Adele, who's head of professional standards, is always talking about, and she works in the medical profession, coaching is working with the mind. So why would you hire somebody who is not trained, qualified, accredited, experienced, etc.? You've got to protect yourself and do due diligence. So I think very, very important. So just as we're starting to wrap up now, we want to know a bit more about you, the person, Katrin. How do you spend your me time? Because you're incredibly busy. I can see on Facebook that you're always doing workshops and presentations, and maybe that is fun for you. But what do you do for your downtime? How do you rejuvenate yourself?
Yeah, it's so funny that you said it's maybe fun for you. Fortunately or unfortunately, it is fun for me. That's one of the blessings and the traps of an entrepreneur. I love what I do, which is...
And that comes across in the clips I've seen in Facebook. I've seen you singing and playing the guitar, and
you can see that's true.
So you're
part of me.
You're an all-rounder.
What do I do in my downtime? Okay, I have a couple of hobbies. Yes, playing guitar is one of them. I also dance. You may have seen that on Facebook as well.
What kind of dancing?
I do Latin dancing. Yeah. But I also like reading. I have some of my favorite authors on my shelf, and sometimes when I don't know where to go and kind of gets foggy, I actually take a day or two or three to just read and fill up on healthy ideas.
Yeah, feed the soul.
Feed the soul, feed the mind, because that's where the source of life is. So everything else falls into place if the heart and the mind are in the right position. So I do pay attention to that. So what do I do on a daily basis? I actually have my mornings. I put aside half an hour to 45 minutes of I call it devotional time, which I spend in my personal spiritual practices. I read, I meditate, I pray. I have a journal that I journal regularly. I do. I love doing sports as well. I don't always have time for that. But my latest passion, it's not about sports, but my latest passion is yoga. And there is a very cool division of yoga in Bulgaria. I think there is in other countries as well. I've seen it on YouTube, but it's called the, how should I translate it? Air yoga. You do it in certain hammocks.
Yes.
So I combine the two. I go to hatha and to air yoga. It's quite cool. For me, it's physical activity, but it's still you benefit from everything else that yoga does.
Yeah.
So this is what I do. I read, I dance, when I sing.
Because when we're running workshops and courses and doing something like coaching people, it can take up a huge amount of energy, and I think you need those sorts of things to replenish your own space and energy and protect your energy, don't you?
Yes, actually, on the last master, I teach the coaching master classes in Bulgaria, in Manhattan. And so we take time to discuss topics and issues that the students and coaches are facing. So we have an hour of discussion. So last time, the subject of charisma came up. Charisma as a coach and charisma as a leader.
Okay.
And we discussed it. It was a very interesting debate. It wasn't a debate, but it was a healthy discussion. Yeah. But one of the things that everybody realized, and I have faced it, is that being a leader, being charismatic, is something that gives to others. And that's why it is, whether it's a gift or a tool, but it's there to support others. However, it's a little bit like having a powerful battery that can charge everybody else. But that battery is limited. It doesn't just endlessly produce this energy. And every so often, thankfully, it's a rechargeable battery. You don't have to throw it away.
Yeah.
But this battery needs to be plugged in regularly in order to charge. So that's a downtime. So you can't always be with your audience or with your clients or with your students. There needs to be a time where your own personal battery charges. And it is something really worth learning and developing as a professional, and especially as a coach, because as a coach you constantly give to your clients your attention, your energy, your love, your care, and all of that. So it has to be replenished. The principle of living with margin, the margin is the difference between what you must do or what you have to do, and also your limitations. So that little space there is the margin. And sometimes when people live without a margin, it's a little bit like, one of those oil lamps that are burning the wick without the oil. So living without the margin is kind of produces a lot of smoke and maybe a little bit of light, but it doesn't last very long. So like your the lamp of your life has to be very deeply soaked into the right kind of oil to give light and shine and give warmth to people that you serve. So this is very important to develop as a practice with coaching, especially. I'm sure actually it applies to any other profession, not just coaching. But living with margin and learning how to recharge your battery, having that me time, downtime, to plug in into a bigger source of energy than you.
And this is why I always ask the question, what do you do to keep yourself grounded? What do you do for me time, for fun? Because it's exactly what you've just said. For those people who don't make time, eventually have to make time for illness and burnout. Yeah.
I mean, the body has its needs as well as your heart and your mind. And when those needs they would both your body and your spirit and your mind want that downtime, that me time, that margin. So you either give it to them voluntarily, or every so often they just demand it on purpose. They crash.
Yeah.
And it can crash in all three aspects. Your body can crash, your mind can crash, your emotions can crash. So hopefully they won't do it at the same time. No. But basically it's a law. You either give it to them consciously, or they will demand it of you. And sometimes it may happen when you least want it. Exactly. So it's better to build it into our daily habits, or at least if sometimes you can manage daily, at least weekly. Okay, sometimes schedules are such that you do require a little extra in some project, let's say, but those projects should not be the norm. They should be the abnormal experience.
Yeah.
And so hopefully my recommendation would be a daily habit, but at least focus for a weekly.
And let's face it, if our profession can't be authentic and practice what we preach, how can we expect our clients to develop healthier lifestyle habits if we're not leading by example?
It's another interesting sort of coincidence that happened is that as we were discussing this subject with my students, I came across a current it's a current program that's called Living with Margin, the exact same topic. It's by Rick Warren, whoever, I don't know, I like some of his videos. But that aspect obviously is a topic in many circles. Obviously a lot of people at the moment probably need that reminder that we are responsible for our bodies, we're responsible for our mind, and we're responsible for our soul and heart and spirit. All of that complexity of what makes a person, well, it's given to us to take care of. There's nobody else to do it for us, and we are responsible for that in order to be productive in the professions that we do.
Yeah, we have a famous article snippet from a tramp who was interviewed, I think it was in Wales, and it was years and years ago, and he would only eat organic food out of the bins. So when he was going through, the supermarket bins, he was very particular, and they said, why do you do that? And he said, if I don't look after my body, where else will I live?
Exactly.
He got himself. And it strikes me that this is one of the reasons why coaching is so popular across the board now, not just in the executive market, not just with celebrities. It's because it doesn't matter what job you've got. We've all got, even if you're a householder or a brain surgeon, we've all got our own stresses, and to have that supportive network that will help you get back in touch with a healthier work-life balance, deal with your stresses, release anger, whatever it is. Coaching is a tool that is available to everybody. But we certainly see it amongst the execs because of burnout and productivity, etc. But I think everybody can benefit from coaching, mentoring, therapy, counseling, whatever it is. But hopefully coaching, because it's more fun and it's very fast, and you can become your own guru because you've actually got your own tools. Nobody knows you better than you. So that, to me, is what coaching helps you get in touch with.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got to wrap up now. I know that on your courses, because I've watched you on YouTube and Facebook, people can expect a lot of fun and inspiration. What else can they expect from hiring you as a coach or attending one of your workshops, and how can they find you?
Okay. Actually, I'm very easy to find. So you can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube. And usually all of my contact details are published there. So finding me is really not a problem. What can they expect? Well, when you come, okay, so there are two aspects, because on one hand, I'm a coach training provider because we're master distributors of Noble Manhattan Coaching. So definitely, when you attend our trainings, you can expect to be immersed at the cutting edge of the coaching industry. The latest update, the cutting edge information and skills and training. Why? Because, well, yes, I am in a way the face of Noble Manhattan in this region. However, thankfully for me and for my students, I'm not the only trainer. We actually work with a wonderful international team of accredited senior and master coaches and fellow coaches who constantly contribute towards the knowledge base of the company, which makes us unique in that respect. Because every professional is a source of incredible knowledge and skill, and so we benefit from the fact that we have a team that is cutting edge, and so that comes across. And the other thing is the ongoing, never-ending support after you graduate. It's not, we don't just support you while you train, but the access to our residential trainings and webinars and resources online, they're always there for people who train with us. We never stop supporting you. That is another thing that makes us up.
I think that's quite important, because I hear a lot of coaches who a year or two down the road are struggling with the aspect of creating a thriving practice because they lack the business acumen. They might be brilliant coaches, but they lack the business skills. They don't like asking for a fee. They can't sell. They can't market. So sadly, they just disappear or go back to employment.
Yeah, and that is one of the desires and missions we have as a company, is not only to provide cutting-edge accredited international qualification as a professional coach, but also to support in that journey. Like you said, it's one thing to have excellent coaching skills, but what do you do with them if you don't have the clients to to practice them with? So, which is why we have created platforms where people can publish ebooks and have radio programs of their own, or be a part of international magazine that they can publish articles and become known. And also business modules that we teach and help people to understand how do you build a business. So this is very important. And also the community, we have a very strong, well, I'm very thankful for that, that we have managed to build a very strongly internally supportive community. We have a very active internal life as a coaching community of Null Manhattan Palitri, and people interact. We have a Facebook group that we share things constantly, and the support group meetings that are monthly, they're also very lively, very feeding, if you want to say that, but it's only to support that development as a coaching professional. So me personally as a coach, if you hire me, what would you gain? Well, you will definitely gain support in seeing things in a non-orthodox way. My life history has been such that, how should I say, beaten paths are for beaten men. But those who really leave a mark are the people who manage to see things that other people and the mass, the majority of the world, cannot. So that extra view, you will definitely gain it through working with me as a coach.
Sounds intriguing.
Excuse me?
That sounds intriguing.
And another thing that you will gain is a fun journey of discovery. And the other thing is, I'll definitely be honest with you. You will get the authentic truth. Yeah, authenticity is one of the trademarks that my career has been built around. I expect it of me as a professional. I expect it of my students as coaching professionals, and I also expect it from my clients. So if they don't practice what you've discussed, what's the point of having another session? Exactly. There's no point in pretending or playing games. Yeah, I'm not the coach for you if that's what you want to do. But if you want to work, if you want to focus, and if you're going to keep your commitments, we can have a wonderful experience actually achieving and getting you. Coaching is not about, this is my philosophy, that coaching is for the successful and the achievers. They're not for the, coaching is not for the losers. None of my clients are losers. my clients are the achievers, the movers and the shakers. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be better at that, then I'm the coach for you. Let's go.
Like a great way to end. I said that's a great note to end on. Yeah, and fun, definitely. I can see that, because you know, I've dealt with you by email for some years, but this is the first time we've had an opportunity really to put the person to the name and the face. So it's been lovely getting to know you better.
Thank you, Dawn.
And I will obviously put your contact details and your link to your IAPC&M profile with this blog. But good luck, and I look forward to hearing more successes from you, and you know, development in your country. And I'll keep following you on Facebook as well.
Thank you, Dawn. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you for the opportunity too.
You're welcome. Bye bye now.
Bye bye.